Who's that handsome fellow? Oh, really? Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Goodston County Planning Commission to order. Ms. Worley, do we have a quorum?
Mr. Brewer is absent. All others are present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious God, we come before your holy throne with thanks and praise. We thank you for all the blessings of this life, for life and liberty and family and friends. We thank you for allowing us to be here in a free country and be able to assemble as we wish. We ask you to give this body the guidance and the wisdom to do what is right by the citizens of this good county. We also ask you to be with our troops, protecting our freedoms and our first responders. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, the minutes of the last meeting have been distributed. Ms. Worley, I think we have one minor correction on page 6.
Yes, on page 8 of your packet in the 8th full paragraph, there's a correction to change Chair Rockacharlie to Chair Shellhorse.
Very good. Any other corrections or changes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are adopted with one revision. I will open a citizen comment period. This would be for any items which are not on this evening's agenda. Anyone that would like to speak about any issue that's not on the agenda, please come forward, give us your name and address, and you'll be given 3 minutes. Anyone? Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we will close the citizen comment period. Ms. Worley, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, would you call the first case?
Mr. Chairman, the first public hearing item this evening is a District 4 CU 2018-7, an application filed by Brian and Lauren Eberhardt requesting a conditional use permit to convert the basement into a separate living area at 1850 Covington Road on tax map number 4415-127. The property is zoned A2 and is 8.5 acres. The CUP is required by Article 3, Section 312 of the Goochland zoning ordinance, and the comp plan designates this area as rural enhancement.
Okay, Greg, I have just an announcement. Before we go forward we have several public hearing items. We have a good crowd here tonight, which we like to see. It makes us feel like we're doing something worthwhile. But I would like to remind everyone of a few of our guidelines that are in the Commission's bylaws. All persons who wish to speak during the public hearing are asked to come forward to the lectern, furnish their name and address. A speaker may only speak once on any item unless a commissioner has questions. All comments should be directed to the commission, not to the audience. Also, we do have a 3-minute time limit on individual speakers. However, if there's someone who represents a group, for instance, a homeowners association, they will be given additional time up to 10 minutes. We do ask and we do remind everyone that that you please not do repetitive items. If someone has already addressed a particular point, we would ask that we only hear it that one time. So with that said, Greg, the floor is yours.
Greg Garrison, Principal Planner, Goochland County. This is a request for a conditional use permit to add an attached second dwelling unit at 1850 Covington Road. The site is located just north of Crozier. You may recall last month you approved a variation request to add a third point of access right there. And the 2035 comprehensive plan does recommend rural enhancement for this area and the surrounding area. Current zoning is agriculture limited. Properties to the north, south, east, and west are also agriculture limited zoning and are zoned predominantly low density residential uses. The site is mostly wooded with the exception of the house that is currently under construction. The applicant is building a house and is requesting to add a separate living unit to the basement for an elderly family member. The approximate square footage is 1,180 square feet and will include a kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. The applicant will live in the primary residence and it will be approximately 2,000 square feet. The total house size will be about 3,180 square feet. A community meeting was held on June 28, 2018 at the Goochland County Library, and no citizens attended that meeting. Should the commission recommend approval of this request, the following conditions are recommended. Number 1, only persons related to a resident of the principal dwelling shall reside in the second dwelling unit. Number 2, the second dwelling unit shall not be rented separately from the principal dwelling. Number 3, carbon monoxide monitor. There shall be a working smoking detector and working carbon monoxide monitor installed and maintained in the second dwelling unit. Number 4, emergency vehicle access shall be provided and maintained to the second dwelling unit. Number 5, prior to the transfer of all or a portion of the property that includes the second dwelling unit, the property owners shall notify in writing the Department of Community Development of the planned transfer and also the new owner of this conditional use permit and its conditions. These are standard conditions that we do attach to conditional use permits of this type. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Garrison?
I just have one. You call it a second dwelling unit, but actually it's within the primary unit. It's not attached or.
It's in the basement. It is attached.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is the applicant present? would you like to speak? Do you have anything to add to Mr. Garrison's presentation?
I don't think so. No, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Greg. I will open the floor to anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Any further comments by the staff or the commission? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve it as it's written.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the application as submitted. Any further comment? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The application is recommended for approval.
Mr. Chairman, this evening, your next two items, we're going to hear a presentation together and hold one public hearing with two separate votes, so I'm going to call them both now. They're both in District 4. The first is RZ 2013-1B, an application filed by Markel Eagle Advisors requesting amendments to proffers submitted with rezoning case RZ 2013-1A to amend the conceptual plan and to delete the requirement for the Ashland Road connection on a portion of tax map numbers 4817Z, 4819R2, 4819R1. The property is located in Parkside Village at the terminus of Park Village Boulevard. The second is also in District 4, RZ 2018-02. Application filed by Markel Eagle Advisors requesting a zoning reclassification of 28.70 acres from A2 to RPUD and to RPUD to develop Parkside Village. Section 4 with 65 age-restricted single-family detached dwellings on portions of tax parcel numbers 48169B, 48155, and all of tax map numbers 4819R1, 4819R2, and 4817Z. The property is located at the terminus of Yare Street and Shinfield Avenue, and the comp plan designates this area as suburban residential.
Thank you, Ms. Worley. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Joanne Hunter, Director of Community Development. As Ms. Worley indicated, this will be two applications because they are so similar and intertwined. We'll be hearing them both together, have one public hearing, but we will need two separate votes at the end of the process. So first application we're going to speak to is the proffer amendment. The applicant is Markel Eagle, and their request is to amend proffers that were submitted and approved in 2013 in regards to a conceptual plan and the construction of a roadway. The road is Park Village Boulevard, which was planned to extend through the neighborhood and to Ashland Road. Parkside Village is located in the northeastern portion of the county. It's right at the county line where both Goochland, Hanover, and Henrico borders all interconnect. This is the comprehensive plan. The yellow is the the suburban residential designation. You can see, I'm going to be using the pointer a lot, so you may want to look at the monitors behind you. So you can see this is the Park Village Boulevard. It's already shown on the plan and how it was platted with the first three sections of Parkside Village. The zoning is also very similar. So the zoning is the RPUD. When this project came in, the applicant in 2013 indicated that this would function as a mixed-use development. They would have the residential here with commercial along Pouncey Track. This is the existing Oshucks development here. There's a plan of development for a dance studio here, and then this was planned for a future commercial. And then also as part of that part of the same rezoning case in 2013, they approved this part for additional commercial development along Ashland Road. You can also see the road was planned to extend through Park Village Boulevard to Ashland in this location, and you can see the right-of-way but has already been dedicated to the county by the applicant for the turn lanes for that proposed road. So this was the conceptual plan that was approved in 2013. This was the commitment to the county that was made. It's flipped upside down, so it was oriented in the same manner. But you can see this writing right here. What that said was future road extended to Ashland Road. So when the county reviewed the PODs for this development, they were basing decisions that they made on this road being constructed to Ashland Road. In our staff report, I had identified a number of reasons why we did not support the recommendation of eliminating this road. Many of the concerns started and surrounded around public safety. So elimination of the road connection to Ashland Road did increase the emergency response time by nearly 2 minutes. We felt this was significant, particularly that it's a 55+ community, and typically they have higher EMS calls than a typical subdivision. And also the fire code requires 2 remotely located emergency access roadways. So when the staff report went out, you can see here, I wanted to show you how you would access the site. So again, this is Parkside Village. It's 118 lots. It's completely built out very quickly. It was started in 2013. So the connection was originally supposed to be at this location. Their proposal to eliminate this connection means all traffic, for vehicles or emergency access needs to go all the way up Ashland Road to the intersection, a traffic light here at Ashland and Pouncey Track, come down Pouncey Track, and the only access points are these 2 here. And you could see these entrances are pretty close together. They're about 500 feet apart. This entrance was actually first built as a private road, so it has an awkward alignment. You can see that, and it sort of wraps around the car wash. So the county would not have approved these 2 entrances, if these were the only entrances. The reason why the county did allow it is because the conceptual plan and the proffers had always planned on connecting to Ashland Road. So when the staff report went out, the applicant did try to address staff concerns, and I think they're also responding to neighborhood concerns by not providing the access to Ashland Road. However, they are offering a emergency access located here. This is an amendment to the proffers that has come in since you've seen the staff report. They did provide this within 48 hours, so a waiver of the time limit is not required, and staff did have time to analyze it and include it in our presentation. So they are offering a fire access in this location here. The proposed road was originally planned to come here, so they are moving it to the west a little bit, and this would just be a fire access, not a full access. And when I say full access, I mean that's cars, residents can use it. This would just be a gated fire access. So we do still have concerns with only having a fire access and not a full access. As I indicated, they're proffering the emergency access to Ashland Road, and they indicate that they would utilize a gate with a remote operation. Fire staff had indicated that their preference would be to have a right turn lane for the fire access. This access would add another entrance point to Ashland Road in close proximity to the planned entrance for the commercial development. This would not be consistent with the comp plan or our arterial management plan to reduce the number of entrance points. And when the main entrance is built for the commercial piece, there is some concern that there may cause some confusion for fire safety. Do they go to the real intersection where there's a commercial development, but then they can't get through to the development, or could they drive past the emergency access? So there is some concern that there could be some confusion. Staff is also concerned that this could be precedent setting for future residential development. The board has recently adopted an ordinance amendment. They're requiring 2 points of access for all roads. I think that shows a commitment that we do want to have connectivity in all of our roads, and we do not want second points or third points of access for larger subdivisions or access for remoteness to be addressed with fire access roads only. That does not address connectivity, and that is the goal of our transportation network. The fire access also does not support the proffered master plan for the development that was committed to in 2013. And as part of that 2013 approval, the applicant has filed plan of development for the road and the turn lanes. They're already on file with the county, but they have not been approved. The applicant did make the commitment to the county to build Parkside Village Parkway, and with that information, that is how we made decisions based on this development. So right now, the only access to the site would be the two on Pouncey Track Road. As I indicated earlier in the presentation, we would not have approved these if these were the only known two locations, because they do not provide access in multi-directional, or they do not provide remoteness standards. And again, I would mention that the awkward location of the road adjacent to Aw Shucks. So the new rezoning application, so not only are they asking to remove the road, but they're also asking to rezone additional property and add another 65 lots on these same two entrances without having that third connection to Ashland Road. The applicant has indicated that they have no control over the commercial development and they cannot therefore construct the connection to Ashland Road. However, if they are able to provide a fire access, the staff would find this location acceptable for a full access road. This application is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan's transportation strategy to encourage sub-street constructions. It's not in compliance with the county's access management standards, and staff does believe that the proposed greenway is what they plan on doing with the road removal, is to put a greenway there. Staff does believe that is a positive to the development, but we do believe that could be achieved with a circuitous road connection and still make the connection to Ashland Road.
Joanne, I don't mean to interrupt your presentation, but could you go back 2 slides?
Sure.
Yeah, one more. Okay, the third bullet, could you?
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, that one. The third bullet, could you explain that in a little more detail?
Sure. Let me take you to a slide to show you better. Oops, sorry. So the this was when it was zoned in 2013. It was all under the same ownership, and the plan was to have the access come through the residential piece, through the commercial piece to Ashland Road. So the connection was made there. Right. The applicant for this property did not purchase the commercial piece as well. They only purchased the residential piece. So they are saying they have no, they can't make this connection. So we're saying, okay, if you don't make the connection there and you're having a fire access here, this could be the new location and there could be an access easement to the commercial piece so that this could serve as the full access point.
Okay.
So as I indicated that the greenway, which is positive for the development, could be done. This is actually how the application first came into the county in the very early process. So this is Ashland Road. This shows the road here built on that commercial piece, and then you would either go right into the new subdivision and go around the Pouncey Track, or you could go left down Shenfield and around this either way. And then this could still be turned into a greenway. Staff totally does agree that it would not be appropriate to have a direct connection from Ashland Road all the way to Pouncey Track. Staff does agree with their applicants and this neighborhoods analysis that that would be a cut through, but we do believe that you could keep the greenway and have these alternative routes. You could also do other traffic calming, which was also indicated in their applicant staff in their traffic study to reduce the cut-through traffic and still have the greenway. Not only does staff have concerns with elimination, but VDOT has indicated they also have concerns with the elimination of the road. VDOT has indicated that they will require a stub to Ashland Road when the number of lots exceed 200 between the existing sections 1, 2, and 3 and the proposed section 4, if approved as part of this rezoning, would come out to about 182 lots. and they are still showing stubs to both the north and the south, so we do believe in the future that that number will exceed over the 200, and we want to plan now for that roadway so that it can be met when that occurs. VDOT is also concerned that removal of this connection to Ashland Road would place an undue burden on the Ashland and Pouncey Track signal, and VDOT is recommending a full access connection to Ashland Road. So there were two citizen meetings on this. They were both heavily attended. The first one was held back in April. We estimated there was about 125 citizens there. At that time, the applicant was showing you the connection to Ashland Road with that circuitous route. There was concerns by the neighbors about having a connection to Ashland Road, and also there was no consensus among the citizens for the internal road network. There were lots of discussions on where the road should go. At that time, the citizens did ask for the traffic study. The applicant did agree. They did their traffic study. They came back, had a meeting at the end of May, and about the same number of citizens were there, and they reviewed the TIA, and at that point, that's when the developer said they would remove the connection to Ashland Road. So there are two changes being proposed with this proffer amendment. The one would be to update the their conceptual plan from the 2013 plan to this new plan that I showed you. The changes are highlighted in yellow. These are the proffer changes that have come in since the staff report went out. So they're changing it to showing that fire access, which is what was shown this evening. And then also under the road proffer, they're removing the language about construction of that road to Ashland Road and taking all the language about that connector road out entirely. I do have all of the proffers here if you have any questions about those, but the only changes are to the two about the conceptual plan and the proffer. So that's the first part on the proffer amendment. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move into the rezoning?
Is that this sheet that we have, it says draft proffers, Parkside Village, Section 4, is that?
Yes, those are the new ones that were handed out this evening.
And you took out item 6, which was public utilities, and 7, doing with dark sky lighting.
That I'll cover with the rezoning and give you some reasons why we did that. So
That's in the next
yes.
section. Okay.
Okay. So if there's, we're going to keep going and then.
Yeah, I think we need to finish. Pardon?
I'm curious where the fire department is that she's referring to.
Yeah, I think we need to
It's not
let,
your
Yeah.
turn yet.
yeah, we need to let staff finish our presentation, and then we'll bring forward public comment.
Okay. So the public hearing is the rezoning. This is for an additional 28.7 acres to rezone to RPUD with proffers for a maximum 65 lot age restricted development. You saw this same slide with the first case. You can see that this is showing where the suburban residential is permitted through the comprehensive plan. That is where they're asking for the subdivision. I did want to show this. The county zoning ordinance has a provision that no single-family houses be built within 1,000 feet of the quarries. So this red buffer line here, this dotted line, that shows the 1,000-foot location of the buffer, the quarry buffer, and this development just goes right up to that. That would be as close as the houses could get on that part. There could be some additional houses which they're stubbing to this parcel here, and there could be additional houses which they're also stubbing to this area over here. So again, this is the same conceptual plan that you saw before, but now we're focusing on the area that's proposed for Section 4. So this area that was proposed as part of the roadway would become a greenway. It would be used to meet the open space requirements for the subdivision. They are showing the stubs to those two roads, to those two properties that I had just referenced. This is the quarry buffer right here that was shown to you in the last slide. And again, the fire access here that we think should be a full access roadway. As I indicated, this is a proposed 65-lot age-restricted development. It would be proposed to be Parkside Village Section 4. Parkside Village Sections 1, 2, and 3 have been sold and all developed since 2013. It's a very successful development. The property is located in the Tuckahoe Creek Service District. The density is consistent with the comprehensive plan. However, the application fails to meet connectivity requirements found in our comprehensive plan, and the new development does not support sound transportation planning initiatives, and full access to Ashland Road is recommended by both staff and VDOT. So as part of the change in the proffer legislation in 2016, as you're aware, the county did a capital impact review to analyze the impacts of residential development. This is the model that was run for this project. So with 65 age-restricted housing, the projected population would be 112 people. Each category shows you in the red what the impacts are for the different capital facilities such as schools, parks, sheriffs, fire, animal protection. And then the blue shows you where there's a capacity trigger of where you can accept a proffer for. And this is what comes out for the proffer eligible categories. There would be no school proffer because of it being an age-restricted development. $803 per home for Parks and Rec, $1,536 for public safety, and transportation $2,598 for a total of $4,937. The applicant has offered this and has certified that they agree with the model. Because we are showing you what the capital impacts are, we also like to show you what the revenue is so that it is fair. There would be recurring revenues with this development as well as one-time fees. The recurring revenues are the real estate, vehicles, and the TCSD that would range between $204,000 and $345,000. And then the one-time fees, which is the water and sewer connection, the POD fees, building permits, that sort of things, would be about $750,000. So I will review the proffers with you. So as Mr. Rockcharlie indicated, you should have the new set of proffers that are on your desk this evening. Again, that was submitted within the time frame, so no waiver is required, but I have made the changes on the screen in yellow. So the conceptual plan is the new plan that was submitted today, or on Tuesday, showing you the fire access. There's a proffer that no more than 65 single-family detached units can be constructed. They do have the age restriction in compliance with the Fair Housing Law, and then they further restricted it to nobody under the age of 19, and that none of those people can use any county services if they stay there under the age of 19. So that assures us that no school impacts would be from this property. The architecture and building materials, these proffers mirror the proffers for sections 1, 2, and 3. So the architecture and exterior building is the same as what's in the original. Parkside one, the exposed exteriors would be brick, stone, cementitious siding, EIFS, or a combination. Disclosures, we tried to tie that down a little bit before. It said whenever possible. We had them change, the applicant did change that to within the marketing packages, contracts, or deeds, they would disclose the following. We want people to know that they would be building a house right adjacent to a quarry. We also want them to know that there's B1 property nearby and that the property is in the TCSD and subject to an ad valorem tax. That's some things that a lot of residents don't know about when they move in, so we want the people to know before they purchase. So this is where you'll start seeing some of the changes, number 6 and 7. I will say the applicant made these changes at the request of the county. Public utilities is a requirement in the code. Anybody who develops in the RPU district is required to connect to public utilities. So if it's a code requirement, there's no sense for it being in the proffers. So that's why we've asked them to remove it from the proffers. The lighting, they had indicated they don't plan on having any lighting. There's not lighting in sections 1, 2, and 3, so they removed that proffer also. The pedestrian access, it was not clear, so they did provide some clarification. It says the pedestrian trail shall be shown as shown on the conceptual plan. That's in the Greenway area. There will be a trail there, and then they've also added that sidewalks would be provided on one side of each street. Number 9 was just a correction. Shelby was in there twice. Roads, again, that ordinance that was just adopted about prior to the 50th building permit, that's now code, so we've removed that. Number 11 is the new one regarding the fire access. They're saying prior to the issuance of the first CO, they will construct the emergency access as shown on the plan, and they'll utilize a gate with a remote operation. Underground utilities is also a code requirement, so we've had them remove it. And then the cash proffer, as I reviewed with the capital impact model, which they have certified. So again, just to remind you, this is 2 separate applications. You need 1 public hearing, but we'll have 2 separate votes. So just in summary, the proffer amendment is to eliminate the proffered commitment to build Park Village Boulevard and provide full access and turn lanes on Ashland Road. The second case is the rezoning of the additional 28 acres for 65 lots. The comprehensive plan, access management, staff, and VDOT do not support eliminating the connection. Staff does support the Greenway and believes it can still be provided with still providing access to Ashland Road. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you, Ms. Hunter. Any questions for Ms. Hunter?
I know.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let me open.
The applicant, Chairman.
Sorry. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Yes, please. Thank you. Ms. Hunter, shall I read this in now or?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. The proffers in this case are being voluntarily offered to address.
If you would introduce yourself.
I'll do that first. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Natalie Croft. I am the Director of Land Planning with Eagle Construction, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Markel Eagle Advisors, who would be the developer. The proffers in this case are being voluntarily offered to address impacts specifically attributable to the proposed development. The proffers are reasonable under state law. Thank you again. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. We are requesting a proffer amendment and a new rezoning to construct the 4th section of Parkside Village, an age-restricted community in the very tip of the northeast section of Goochland County. Sections 1 through 3 are entirely built out with 118 single-family homes. We are proposing Section 4 to add a maximum of 65 single-family lots, resulting in an overall total of 183 homes. Connections to the existing sections remain as previously shown at Shenfield Avenue and Yarra Street. A portion of the originally contemplated Park Village Boulevard would instead be utilized and constructed as a 60-foot wide greenway running through the heart of the village. The greenway would be flanked with landscaped berms and would include a 5-foot wide asphalt trail connecting to the pedestrian access ways already present in Parkside Village. Open lawn areas, benches, and a focal landscaping feature would serve to anchor the space. From staff's report and their presentation this evening, it's apparent that removing the stub to the commercial parcel is really the main point of apprehension based on 3 issues: emergency access, a multi-directional access point to disperse traffic, and the fact that a connection to the B1 parcel was previously proffered. I would like to address what I feel has been perhaps a misconception regarding the much discussed Ashland Road access. It's important to emphasize that if our subject parcel were to be developed as originally shown on the proffered plan, it does not provide a connection to Ashland Road. The connection in question is simply a stub to our neighbor's commercially zoned parcel, which sits in between our parcel and Ashland Road. The proffers and proffered plan show, I highlighted the block in red, that the road segment on the B1 property is to occur with the development of that parcel, with the commercial uses, and there is no time frame trigger guaranteeing when that parcel will develop. Simply put, stubbing to the commercial parcel does not provide access to Ashland Road. Another misconception that a light bulb moment during the presentation is we are not the same applicant as the original rezoning. That's a different applicant. We became involved in this project after the original rezoning. So this is not a Markel Eagle Advisors trying to go back on a commitment that they had already made. This was a previous applicant. There is no mutual ownership between Markel Eagle and Pouncey Track Partners. Regarding public safety, we 100% agree that there is a need for an additional emergency access from Ashland Road, especially for an age-restricted community. We want our residents to have the quickest response times in case an emergency situation arises, which is why we are providing an access for emergency vehicles only to Ashland Road, all the way to Ashland Road, on land controlled with this rezoning case. We have proffered to provide a remotely operated, gated emergency access where our property has frontage on Ashland Road. The state fire code provides for and regulates these types of accesses, and we will comply with those regulations. So on this slide, the M's stand for the main entrances, the S stand for stubs, and the E is our emergency access. The staff report notes that VDOT will require a multi-directional access or stub when the number of lots exceeds 200. As I mentioned earlier, even with the additional lots proposed with this rezoning, the total number of lots equals only 183 and does not exceed 200. This threshold is not met, and therefore an additional access or stub toward Ashland Road is not yet required. VDOT has also stated that our proposed layout meets their requirements for secondary street acceptance. With the quarry buffer, the amount of remaining land available for future residential development is very limited. The western stub would connect to land that could potentially be developed for a handful of residential lots in the future, and if so, could provide the access to Ashland Road if and when the requirement applies, when the number of lots exceeds 200. We also hear staff's assertion that Parkside Village sections 1 through 3 would not have been permitted with only the 2 access points on Pouncey Track Road. However, when I read that in the staff report, it left me scratching my head a little bit because staff did approve it on just those 2 access points. They approved it with section 2, putting 82 lots on just those 2 access points, and then they reaffirmed that decision when they approved section 3 on just those 2 access points. If you drive out there today, they're just those 2 access points. We understand that Parkside Village was originally designed with a boulevard from Ashland Road to Pouncey Track Road. In our first community meeting, we presented a plan showing what the property could look like if the B1 parcel road were built and we connected to it as originally approved. We were met with resounding and overwhelming opposition from the vast majority of Parkside Village residents based on their very real, very valid concern that any connection to Ashland Road would invite cut-through traffic through their neighborhood. Now, Eagle Construction is a company built on 4 core values: passion, respect, commitment, and accountability. These values are woven into every decision we make. Based on our commitment to doing the right thing for our residents at Parkside Village, we took a closer look at our proposal. Ashland Road and Pouncey Track Road are both listed as arterial roads in the county's comprehensive plan. These roads carry the bulk of truck and bus traffic, and property access should be limited and highly managed. The comprehensive plan further states that local roads, such as the roads within Parkside Village, should provide little or no through traffic. And in residential areas, local roads should facilitate circulation within the neighborhood and discourage through traffic, completely aligning with the neighborhood's wishes for no access and therefore no invitation for cut-through traffic. But let's look a little closer at this specific case because I think Parkside Village is in a rather unique location. It is bounded on both sides by arterial roads. The primary uses on Ashland Road are industrial. I put a little inset of the county's comp plan map up there. Purple is industrial, pink is flex, which excludes single-family residential. There are 3 quarries and an industrial park located on Ashland Road within 2 miles of Parkside Village. Pouncey Tract Road is a main thoroughfare into Henrico County, and the intersection of these 2 roads is located in yet another county. Earlier this week, I was asked what would be the benefit to Goochland County to eliminate the potential for a connection to Ashland Road. I would ask, what benefit is it to keep the potential connection? It seems the only benefit would be to provide a cut-through for traffic and potentially industrial traffic to get into Henrico County quicker by avoiding the traffic light in Hanover County. But again, what is the benefit to Goochland? Based on the comprehensive plan, the residents of Parkside Village should be the beneficiaries of such a connection, yet the vast majority of residents do not see it as a benefit. The only thing currently requiring a stub to Ashland Road is a 5-year-old proffered conceptual plan, not VDOT. They have stated our plan meets all their requirements. Not EMS, we have provided an additional emergency access. When the plan was first designed, there were a handful of stakeholders. Now we have an additional 118 households whose quality of life will be impacted if a connection to Ashland Road is required. We believe this proposal represents doing the right thing for Goochland County and its residents, and we respectfully request your recommendation of approval of our proffer amendment and rezoning applications this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and our traffic engineer is also here tonight.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Kroll. Any questions for the applicant? Not at the moment. We may need to call you back, but
Yes,
at the
sir.
moment we'll go to the public hearing.
Okay, yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing for any comment. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this of these applications or in opposition, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. To make sure that everyone feels free to speak, there should be no audible outbursts of support or opposition. We'd like to hear from everyone who would like to speak, and if anyone represents a group, please let us know in advance. Those who would like to speak, please come forward to the lectern, give us your name and address. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for allowing us to present our case to you and be part of this hearing. My name is Kenneth Shook, and does this advance?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, I'd like to introduce myself. As I mentioned, I'm Kenneth Shook, 7282 Ellingham Court. In Section 3, Parkside Village. Just to give you a point of reference, our property, my wife Cheryl Shook and I live there. Our property is, the edge of our patio is about 4.6 feet from the proposed, from the berm, which is presently located along the proposed parkway or pedestrian parkway. So we would probably be the closest neighbor to the cut through if that were to happen. So what Cheryl and I did was we generated a petition, sent it out to the residents of Parkside Village.
Mr. Shook, so you representing the homeowners association
No.
or a group of neighbors, or speaking for yourself?
I'm speaking for myself.
Very good.
Yes. So just in general, we sent out the petition so that we could get a consensus from the residents in Parkside Village as to, I guess, their preference as to whether the parkway was going to be completed, was going to be a boulevard or a greenway. So as a result of our petition, which I can present to you this evening. We have 149 residents that signed the petition, and that represents approximately 77% of the households. So our collection process is complete. So basically, what I'd like to find out tonight is basically what is the schedule for the proposed Phase 4 development? What sort of dates are we looking at as far as time frame? And one of the consensus, or one of the things that we got from the collection of the petitions was a lot of concern from the residents as to what access points were going to be to the new Phase 4 community. We want to minimize any possible damage either caused by disruption during the construction of property, cars, and community relationships. We've had a lot of discussion within the community about what these access points are going to be. Personally, we would like to recommend some sort of temporary construction access from Pontchartrain. Now, with the presentation tonight, we found out that there would be a access for emergency vehicles, and I think that was a concern from most of the residents. Basically, what the petition says is that most of the residents, the 77%, recommend no access from Ashland Road. Basically, this would alleviate a lot of the traffic concerns that we have. Safety of the residents is also a concern over the potential 2-minute response time. Also, we think that the pedestrian greenway is going to enhance the value, the aesthetic value of the neighborhood, providing a centralized hub for the community and provide, a natural greenway for us to walk along. So basically, our result of our petition is that the majority of the residents are in favor of not having the access to Ashland Road.
I understand. Mr. Shook, I have one question for
Sure.
you, just to make sure I understand your presentation. You mentioned the petition is signed by 149 residents.
Yes.
As I understand it, there are only 118 currently occupied residences.
Homes. So there are some residents, there are 2 residents, spouse and husband and wife, so we
the
counted.
petition could have, it isn't one signature per household.
Right. There could be 2, 3, depending on how many people are living in the house.
I understand. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I summarize.
Yeah, would you hand that to Ms. Worley, please?
Thank you, sir.
All right, next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Steve Foster. I live at 7198 Yar Street, Glen Allen, Virginia, which is in Goochland County. You're in a tough spot tonight. I've been in your spot. I spent my first 10 years in county government in Spotsylvania County as a county administrator and planning director, so I know it's tough when you've got residents and developers and builders on both sides of an issue. I am not part of the 77%. Did not sign the petition. I live on Yar Street, or Yara Street, the northern end. And apparently now the staff recommendation is access to Ashland Road, but not build the connector, which means all the traffic will either come down Shinfield, which runs parallel to Ashland Road, and then take a right turn on Yara, because there's no stop sign, either go by Aw Shucks or go to Park Village entrance. And if the entrance is not put into Ashland Road, the 65 new homes likewise will have 2 ways to get out. They'll go out Shinfield to Yar, or they'll go out straight out Yar, the other end of Yar. So if you look at the original plan, Park Village Boulevard was built to be, if you will, limited access. It's a wider street. There are no sidewalk cuts. There are no driveway cuts. If you look at Shinfield, Yar, and other streets, there are lots of curb cuts, many of which were put in the wrong location. The curb cuts do not line up with the driveways, which we were later told that was a mistake by the developer. I'm also interested that the developer now that's asking for proffer changes is not the original developer, when it's still Mr. Gazer. So apparently there's some kind of movement within Markel as to what legal entities he now resides in. So my concern, that of others, I'm just speaking for myself, is under the current plan to rezone for Section 4, without any access to Ashton Road, or without building the connector, all the traffic will come down Yar Street to Park Village Boulevard, go down Shinfield to Yar Street. If the staff recommendation is implemented, cut-through traffic will then come through from Ashland Road, going primarily to Enrico to the west end, and cut down those same two streets. So our concern is traffic on those streets. They were not designed to take that kind of traffic. When I bought my lot, I was told by the Eagle Construction sales staff that the road, that the connector road would go through at least to Shinfield. Others who bought lots in Section 4 were told the very opposite. So there's a little bit of a credibility issue when you buy a certain lot, what you're told to sell the lot. Some were told it would be built. Others were told the opposite. So I have real sympathy for people who bought in Section 3, whose patios are 5 yards or 5 feet from that berm, because they were apparently told the developer had changed his mind and was not going to build that connector between its current terminus when you come off of Pouncey Track and when you pick back up again at Shinfield. So instead, there'll be a 5-foot wide pavement, additional 50-foot wide green space, and I guess the HOA will be required to maintain. And finally, if you can condition Section 4 approval on this, most residents are prepared to take over the HOA. We believe the residents can better run the HOA than 3 staff people from Eagle sitting in Short Pump. So I know they still retain 1 lot so they can control the HOA. And our concern is 65 more lots, they'll try to control the HOA for another 2 or 3 years. So I'm not sure if that can be part of a proffer. I know proffers can be pretty much anything within legal boundaries. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I don't think that's a part of this case that we're hearing tonight, the HOA.
Well, I just thought I'd mention it, Mr. Chairman, because it is a concern that if Section 4 is approved, the homeowners basically have no say in how the HOA spends its money.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Kenneth Carter. I live at 7169 Yare Street in Parkside Village, and I represent 8 homes that are at the south end of Yare Street that will be impacted by Section 4. Unlike most of my neighbors, I did not sign the petition supporting this effort because I felt the wording automatically supported the associated proposals with closing Yare and the Section 4. They are all intertwined, and y'all are facing that now, even with the staff recommendations. And it's one of the reasons I didn't sign it, because I couldn't distinguish the 2 issues there. All of the neighbors on the south end of Yare, and we have met collectively, we have talked. We all have reservations in the amount of traffic that will be forced along the narrow section of this roadway. The street is simply too narrow to serve as the main entrance for Section 4. We have submitted photos to the county staff, our concerns to the developer as well. If you notice just a little section, we've gone out and actually measured. Yare Street is 29 feet wide. The main entrances are 30.5 to 35 feet. But yet, to get to these wider sections, you've got to put all that traffic in front of homes where we are dependent on on-street parking. The road is just simply too narrow. We have met with representatives from Eagle and the developer and are continuing to work with him to look for other suggestions. We are hoping to provide and work with them other suggestions on allowing access to the main exits without going down these narrow streets. Please consider those of us residents that are there. This is just simply too narrow of a street to put 65 homes on and have the traffic go out existing residential streets. Thank you.
Mr. Carter, before you leave the lectern, do I understand then that you and the 8 homes that you represent are in favor of the parkway? as originally designed?
I cannot speak for all of them. We are just concerned with the amount of traffic in the Section 4 plan all coming out Yare. Just proximity with Pontchartrain being the only access, we feel like very few people are going to take all the turns to go up around Shenfield, to come down Yare, to go out Village Trail. That the main access will be down the main thoroughfare on out to Yare. We figure probably 61 to 62 of the 65 lots will all come out Yare. That's their main concern.
Okay, so you're favoring an Ashland Road ingress egress.
No, sir. I'm not stating on it. We're just stating we have concerns about the conceptual design, putting all the traffic on Yare and Shenfield.
I understand. Thank you. Next.
It's Mike Tassel. I'm at 7035 Ben Hall, so it's Lot 18, the original Section 1. Can I clarify? I think he was not supporting, I believe, access from Ashland Road, but he did want a different route within the community. Okay. Just to clarify that. Really sort of unscripted comments here, but I like the precedent that you guys are thinking about here of listening to the homeowners' concerns to what we want, especially as Goochland County is growing. I think this is a high valuable property for you. I think you want to do it the right way. I don't think you want to set a precedent of not listening to high-value homeowners, which we are. So, I mean, part of that is, okay, what do the homeowners want based upon what is right within the laws and requirements. I asked, and when I came in here, I Googled where are the fire stations that we're concerned about the 2 minutes. We're in a different bunch of community sections there, and I'm not sure how fire EMS works, but the closest fire station is up to 271, which would not come up Ashland Road. So assuming EMS would come, it would be a mile and a half, 2 miles on 271. It would come in the current main entrance. So I'm confused about, the extra 2 minutes and what you're talking about. Well, Hanover doesn't respond to. Okay, well that's crazy. Okay, it's the closest one. Anyway, okay, number. And I wasn't sure how the additional 2 minutes came up. So I'd like to see some kind of analysis.
All right.
2 minutes? And 2 minutes isn't that big a deal. The third or fourth point was, and I think it's been mentioned, Quarry Hill Road, 685, would go back into Section 4, would give you direct egress for emergency vehicles. It's an existing road. I'm not sure why that couldn't be considered. Finally, last point, the question is, how does it compare to what Henrico does? I came from West Broad Village. West Broad Village has a gate for fire access that's locked at all times. That's on Three Chop Road. That's the only way to get in for fire and EMS. Seemed like a reasonable solution. There's no through traffic. You have a gate. I guess EMS can get in there when they need to. And it seems like we should come to some reasonable conclusion that's right for the homeowners, gets the access that's needed, if it's needed. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Margaret Levitt.
Yeah, if you bring the mic down, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Good.
Okay. I am at 7036 Ben Hall Circle, Phase 1. And I can tell you that my husband and I consider it a privilege to live in Goochland County among our friends and neighbors at Parkside Village. And my concern is strictly related to the access off Ashland Road as a safety concern. We've already had a resident who has been rear-ended by a quarry truck. And with access, if you try and take a left out of our neighborhood to go up Ashland Road towards the highway, I just don't see that as feasible. And I would like for us to really think about this proactively instead of reacting with mitigating roundabouts or speed humps to prevent people cutting through our neighborhood. We don't want to react to a tragedy. The quality of life in Parkside Village, we just love it there. But we only have sidewalks up to a point. There's no crosswalks. And if we had cut through, and right now, maybe with the traffic studies, it could be deemed acceptable. But with development, and we know development is coming, whether through Goochland County, Hanover, Henrico, it will affect us greatly where we're located. So I would like you to consider the safety aspect. I do appreciate the emergency vehicle entrance with a gate because 2 minutes is not acceptable to delay rescue. So if you would just kindly consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor or in opposition to the applications?
Good evening. My name is Paul Watt, and I'm at 7165 Yare Street. I am requesting that the board consider rejecting the rezoning for several reasons. One reason, or two or three of the reasons I had have already been mentioned, so I'm not going to reiterate those. But if you can turn around and look at the diagram behind you, there's kind of a horseshoe, which I'll be referring to. It's the only horseshoe curved road there. The rest are all straight. As previously mentioned, the easiest way to get out of that additional area that's being proposed, the easiest is to go through the short side of Yare Street, which is on the southern end. And you probably can't realize the dynamic of it just from the drawing, but there's only 8 houses on the south end, and there's like 20 some houses on the north end. Oh, okay, thank you. Top button. Okay, so the eight houses that have been spoken about on Yare Street are right here. There's only 8 lots. There's more lots drawn here than there really are, because this is concept. And the north end is this side, and Schoenfeld is this side. So what we're saying is this is the emergency entrance, but there's no actual entrance or exit from this whole new section that's being requested approval of, except coming from these two off Pouncey Track and then going all the way around here to Schoenfeld into the new part, or going up here and going past 8 houses. That would bring approximately 120 so possible vehicles going through this short area of Yare Street, which is only 8 houses long. You've already heard about the measurements of the street. This road, Parkside Village Boulevard, was originally constructed for major traffic because, as you've heard, the main bulk of traffic was supposed to go through to Ashland. So this road is 2 lanes in each direction, and it's quite wide. Cars can pass each other. On the short side of Yare right here, the road is shorter, and like was said, we submitted some photographs with cars parked on both sides of the street. 2 cars cannot pass each other in the middle of the road. There's only like 3 feet on each side of the car that's coming down the street, passing between 2 parked cars. There's not enough room for any large vehicle, a UPS truck or whatever. This new thing here, this new concept, as we've been told by the developer, was put together, I think, personally, a little hastily. We had 2 very hasty meetings with the developer. Those of us on the short side of Yare Street were dissenters in the overall decision, and I think we have not been adequately heard by the developer in some of these concerns that exist right in this little pocket here, including this this home right here is going to have a lot of headlight issues. This house right here is going to have a lot of headlight issues. These houses are going to have headlight issues. We're concerned about, people concerned about quality of life. I'm not in favor of eliminating the greenway. I am in favor of extending the road to here and then cutting over to this section as an additional road right there, and leaving this and leaving the fire exit. That would give the people going into the new section an opportunity to have a choice of coming up here, a properly sized and graded road equal to that of Parkside Village Parkway, and then entering their community, Section 4. Without those types of modifications and consideration for the dissenting group of the community, I believe that this should be rejected and the developer come back and sit with those of us that have concerns that I believe personally have not been visited. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watts. So, but just to understand the point, if I could ask a question. So you favor rerouting the entrance from Pouncey Track, the Parkway, and not completing it all the way through to Ashland Road?
Right, I can show you. In fact, I have a diagram here which I'll
I just
submit.
want to understand the point you're making.
I'm only suggesting that, because now I'm on your time, I'm only suggesting that the road come, instead of coming here and then only leaving these two access roads, Yare Street, this is no man's land. And then the greenway start. The greenway is like a park of sorts, 60-foot wide. Instead of leaving this or this, the only access to the new area, I'm suggesting that there be almost like a fork here. This can stay open. These two Yare Street areas can stay open, but add an additional roadway from here, right through here. Possibly one lot would be eliminated, and that would provide enough access to get the bulk of the new Section 4 residents out onto Parkside Village Boulevard quickly. All these people who want to can go out to a road that was originally designed and built for a large quantity of traffic.
Thank you. I understand. I understand. It isn't our role to design the subdivision.
Pardon me?
I say it isn't our role to redesign the subdivision. You understand?
Right. I understand.
We must act on the application
Right.
before us. But your points are well made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to come forward to speak either in favor or in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Roger Ingenthron. I live at 7200 Yare Street, and I just wanted to make a very brief comment in support of the first application, and it has to do with comments people have made on the danger of cut-throughs from Ashland through our subdivision. There are a large number of over 55 pedestrians using those streets, and it's been mentioned already that they have to cross with no crosswalks as they walk around. There are a couple of other points. One is that once these roads are finished, anyone driving up Ashland who wants to go down Pouncey Tract will find on Google that the fastest and shortest way, for example, to get to Wyndham West will be to cut through the subdivision. And a lot of people use Google as their way to go to a new place. Secondly, we currently have a tractor supply company being developed on Ashland Road. So the fastest way to get from Wyndham to the tractor supply company, it's the only one in the area that I'm aware of, would be through our subdivision. So for those reasons, I support not having an entrance through from Ashland.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Hi there, my name is Cheryl Shook, and I'm the other half of Ken Shook, who got up earlier to speak. What I wanted to leave you with today is it was about a week ago, actually 2 weeks tomorrow. My husband and I were coming down Ashland Road, coming from Ashland down to, to come home, which would have hit Pouncey Track and make a left-hand turn on Pouncey Track to come into our community. And what I want to leave you with is what we found just prior to getting to Pouncey Track, and I'm sure this is well noted, was a tractor trailer was flipped over on its side, and I saw the wheels spinning. Those tractor trailers coming from the quarry, the big trucks, they come speeding down Ashland Road at really high speeds. To have an access point coming into Pouncey Track as a shortcut to get into access point coming into Parkside to get quicker to Pouncey Track is something that would definitely occur. And that is not something that I think any of us want to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
My name is Paul Gazzara. My address is 7034 Ben Hall Circle. And I just want to say that I support the idea of having an emergency gate at the end of our boulevard and with no access through, and I support the greenway. As everyone else said, it would be crazy to have that traffic coming through, especially with trucks, making that cut through. And I would urge anyone else who feels the same way to get up and say that, because so many other folks have gotten up and have given an indication that they may not be in favor of that. So I think we need to have the Planning Commission know how much support there is for that greenway and keeping that gate there. Thank you very much.
I support it. Well, I think we need to get up and say it. I already did.
All right, anyone? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. My name is Wayne Farrell, and we live at 7284 Ellingham Court. First of all, I'd like to thank the Commission for the way you start this meeting. Pledge allegiance, invocation. Mr. Meyer did a great job with that. And in this day and time, we need more. We need that happen frequently. So thank you. I'm really just kind of want to sum up what I think I've heard here. Of all the comments, I haven't heard anyone that doesn't want the greenway. I don't believe. I was also impressed that there was 77% of the homes that have signed supporting the what's before you tonight. In this day and time, to get 77% of people to support anything is pretty difficult. At least, especially if you go up north about 100 miles into that crazy place up there. In any event, it reminded me, the green reminded me of y'all. You may not be as old as I am, but there used to be a song that says they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Well, the greenway will keep that from happening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Okay, anyone else?
Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, my name is Lawrence Lisfeld, and I own the property across the street from the Parkside Village. I just want to say in 2013, we were told that a road was going through there. That was before all these people were even in the picture. And we did not oppose this subdivision at all. And now that the subdivision started, they want to change everything they told us at the beginning. Before it even came about, I met with Scott Gager with Eagle Construction, and they assured us that that road would go through there. And I think it needs to go through for safety issues and traffic issues on Ashland Road.
Thank you, Mr. Leesfeld. Yes, sir, please come forward.
Thank you. My name is Steve Levitt. I live at 7036 Ben Hall. I'm the other half of Margaret who just spoke with you. But I want to talk about just the safety and the traffic aspect for a moment. I come home from work every night up 64 down Ashland Road. And in the evenings and in the mornings, there's a lot of traffic there. I sit at that traffic light 4, 5 cycles before it goes through. I'm on a first name basis with all the cows. I know every one of them. But there is a sheriff, a Hanover sheriff, sits.
Mr. Levitt, which traffic light?
The traffic light at Pouncey Track in
Ashland?
Okay. The church at the corner, they have an issue of people cutting through. So the Hanover sheriff sits there 3 nights out of 5 to stop people. Many a night I'll sit there and I think to myself, boy, if there were a cut through into my subdivision, I would take it. And you know what? The people behind me are thinking the same thing, and they don't live there. So I think that if we cut through, then we're going to have an issue. And I strongly support not having any kind of a connect from Ashland Road through Parkside Village. I think it's going to be an issue for the residents. And I think that people are going to find that, even if it's a circuitous route, as the staff has suggested, people are going to find it. People Google Map, it's going to go through, and it's going to become another major thoroughfare as we get more development. And there will be more development. It's going to be commercial development, and Hanover is going to be building a big, an extension to Wyndham out on the northern part of Ashland Road. And all that traffic is going to be going to and from and through, trying to get around, and everybody wants to avoid a traffic light. And I just think it's going to be a bad idea for the people right on that corner in Parkside Village. It's going to be, over the years, as more development comes on, it's going to be a mess, and I think we're going to have some problems. And I strongly support the amendment to the proffer as they were proposed. I also support, I think it's a good idea, to have a fire lane or a limited access for the emergency vehicles. I think it's a smart thing to do, and I don't think you want to disrupt what the nice neighborhood that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? And we'll ask you again not to repeat what may have already been said, but we do want to hear from everyone.
Good evening. Dr. Abdul Amir, 1721 Old Orchard Lane, Mannequin. I'm in favor of the access to Ashland Road in that 2 minutes of time of first responder time is significant. Try holding your breath for 2 minutes and see how far you get. 2 minutes makes a significant difference in response time. When I hear a report from an EMS down for 30 seconds, okay. When I hear another report down for 2 minutes, oh geez. When I hear another report, well, we could have gotten to them, but there was traffic on the road and we couldn't get to them in time, or there was other issues, it's like, oh my God. So I'm in support of the initial proffer for access through Ashland Road for management, for health and safety. Thank you.
Yeah,
1721 Old Orchard. No, no.
That's not an issue. Please, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll ask you to please address the commission and not to direct comments to each other. That's not the way we do business. So. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Wayne Dasher, 7280 Ellingham Court. I'm going to live within 10 feet if Parkside Village Boulevard went through. I'm in favor of the Ashland Road emergency entrance. That would eliminate the 2-minute delay that he is talking about. I also am in favor of the Greenway. Do not want tractor trailer trucks, dump trucks coming through at 6:30 in the morning, and they're going to come through all day long. So do not extend the Parkside Village Boulevard and put in the emergency room access.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one raise their hand, I will close the public comment and see if the applicant would like to come forward to address any of the comments that have been made.
Thank you again, members of the commission. I think I won't take much of your time. I think we've heard from the residents and they are in support of our proposal. We have done our best to listen to their concerns and put their concerns in our heads when we were designing the site. We have met with several different groups of neighbors. In fact, we met with the Yare Street residents yesterday, and I thought we had a very productive meeting where we all heard each other and had different ideas. We are committed to continuing discussions with them and maybe find something that can alleviate their concerns. Again, I would respectfully request your recommendation for approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
The concern with the narrowness of the roads and the cars parking on the roads. Now, are you going to have off-site parking, garages and parking, so that's not an issue?
All homes will have a 2-car garage. The driveways also, I believe, are of a length that we build that are able to pull in without going over the curb or going over the sidewalk. So we have, as far as I know, 2-car garages and room in the driveway for at least one. I will also note that on the original rezoning, Yare Street was shown with having a temporary cul-de-sac and the roadway continuing for a future section. Again, we met with the Yare Street residents to look at possible alternatives, and one alternative that was suggested, environmental issues make that not feasible at this time, but we are certainly listening to the residents and trying to come up with solutions.
John?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that emergency entrance, which is going to be in lieu of the through road?
Yes, sir. I don't know the state fire code by heart, but I do know that it's contemplated in the fire code, and there are requirements and regulations in place for emergency access roads such as this. It would be a remote operated gate. I think it's similar to like your garage door opener for emergency access only. It would not be for residents of Parkside Village either. They would have no access to get through the gate. It would be marked at the entrance. And again,
who's going to have these remotes?
The EMS gets the remotes. Yes. Again, we would comply with state fire code in terms of the design of that road.
It's my understanding from talking with Mr. Gazer that that's activated by sirens. So consequently, a fire truck or a police vehicle coming down Ashland Road with the sirens going, by the time they get there, the gate would be open.
Okay.
Just as if there's a road there with no gate in it.
Understood.
I think that's what he told. That's what I was told.
Okay.
It would seem like to me, if it worked by remote, then the EMS would have to carry like 2,000 remotes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think our point is that it's not something that fire has to stop the truck, get out the truck, get out of the bolt cutters, walk to the gate. You know, it's a much more efficient system in terms of getting where you need to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Supposed to be siren.
Yeah, I think the staff might be able to comment on that based on input from the EMS department. Ms. Hunter, could you? Or?
The chief is fire chief.
Oh, good. Please. Yeah. We finally have someone who knows what he's talking about.
Sometimes.
Chief, welcome.
Bill McKay, Fire Rescue Chief for Goochland County. The passageways can be activated by a number of ways. They can be activated by the remotes, as some people have indicated, but our preference is to have a siren-activated one, and you change the pitch of the siren, and it activates the gate that opens it up. We have several of them in the county that are in proximity to the county that work that way. We also have other communities here that have designated touchpads that we have the codes for that come electronically to us in our computers on the apparatus. So there is a delay with those type, and that's why we prefer the siren one, because that's just as Mr. Rockacharlie indicated, it's open immediately when we get there.
Right. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief. Would the staff have any further comment? Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the applicant or the staff? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Craw. Well, let me see if I can summarize. This has been an excellent session, by the way, and thank everyone for coming forward and providing your input. That's why we're here. This is a very difficult case, obviously. There are a lot of options. I think the applicant has made a concerted effort to respond to the needs of the community, which is obviously a very popular community and very favorable to Goochland County. It seems to me that accepting that we have sufficient information to take action, that we have three options. We can either recommend approval of the amendment as submitted to eliminate general access to Ashland Road and install the siren-activated gate for emergency vehicles and replace the connector road with a greenway. That's option one. Option two, we can disapprove the amendment and stick with the original proffer as approved in the rezoning case. Number three, we can recommend that there be, as the staff report indicated could be done, that there be a general access way to Ashland that would not connect directly through the parkway, that would be a greenway, but would in fact go through the subdivision with appropriate traffic controls to eliminate the overwhelming cut through that could happen. Although as I read the staff report, the connector road would anticipate having something over 1,000 trips per day cut through. If it's diverted through the subdivision streets, there would be about 200. I think that's the data that we received in the report. So we have three options. So gentlemen, would anyone like to comment on that or add anything to it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that we approve the revised proffers, which contain the greenway and also only have emergency access onto Ashland Road using a gated entrance at that point. And I would recommend that we take action and approve the applicant's application.
As submitted.
As submitted.
Now we have two votes. We have the vote on the roadway, and then we have a vote on the rezoning of the additional parcel. So we're acting on the roadway at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The proffer amendment.
The proffer amendment, exactly.
The proffer amendments, RZ
there's a motion.
2013 1B.
Got it. So there's a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Well, at this point, we have a motion that has not been seconded. Is there any other input from the commission as to another alternative? staff recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the only those relating to the comprehensive.
Yeah, I know, sorry. Sorry for the sidebar. What we're discussing is to have staff come forward and talk about the implications of this application on the comprehensive plan.
Only as regard to the comprehensive plan.
In terms of the proffer amendment?
Right, yeah.
Yes. The comprehensive plan, and particularly the major thoroughfare plan, addresses connectivity. We always want to have connectivity. We want to address remote access so that you can have multi-directional connectivity. We encourage stub streets and always provide connections. So this would not, in my opinion, this proffer amendment is not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right.
That's what I understood.
Okay. I think we could revisit the motion that was made, and let me see if I can just get my arms around it. Since this site is in the district that I represent, so I feel an obligation to look hard at all of the facts here. I think the two entrances to the subdivision from Pontchartrain, as the staff report indicated, do not meet the standards for spacing. Plus, the one that goes by the convenience store has a little bend in it that makes it a little awkward to get in and out that way. However, they were approved that way. At the same time, the parkway, the connector road, was approved in the rezoning case. But circumstances change, and I will ask my fellow commissioners, Mr. Myers and Mr. Duke, if they would address Mr. Rocky Charlie's motion.
Yeah, I think you should.
And let me know if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, okay.
Because we're only talking about the first
proffer amendment.
Yeah. I'm going to second it because I think it should go to a vote.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm seconding it.
All right, the motion that Mr. Rocky Charlie made to recommend approval of the proffer amendment as submitted has been duly seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So it seems that the complaint is that it would have too much traffic coming through if we do run it out. If they extend it through, if they don't extend it through and it's just limited access, then it will dump a whole lot more traffic out of the next thing we have to vote on into that. If it is small, if it was designed originally with a wider street for that purpose, then the question may be for the second part of it. It looks like there's no wider street for the amount of traffic that's coming through on the next part we vote for. Am I saying that incorrectly?
No, that's a valid point, but I think that would apply to the second application, not the proffer amendment.
But by us saying that it doesn't have to have access to this type of access to Ashland Road, then could we not say that it has to have that type of access in the new section? So if they're saying they can't do it at the one spot they have it, can we not, like the staff was saying that it could be moved into this new section and still have it, the same wide streets?
Well, I don't think it's our purview to get into redesign of the roadways. We've got to deal with the application as submitted.
Okay.
So I think it's a valid point, but I don't think it's in our purview at this point. Ms. Marshall, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly seconded on the floor, and let me just summarize here, which is to recommend to the Board of Supervisors acceptance of the proffer amendment as submitted. I think that we've had a lot of comments. There are those who make a good point about the proffer that was approved with the rezoning is and should be valid. We have concerns of the residents about traffic. The emergency access certainly takes care of the safety, health and safety concerns. I think we can all relate to residents not wanting cut-through traffic. Now, all that said, we have an issue at the intersection of Ashland Road and Pouncey Track. We've got Berea Church there, we've got business, we've got a cemetery on the other side, we've got commercial business on the other two corners. Widening or improving that intersection would be I'm not sure we can get that done. So, and that is a problem. So not having ingress, egress to Ashland is going to not help that situation. So we have good points and we have bad points. But we have a motion that is on the floor and has been seconded. Ms. Worley, would you call the roll?
Duke?
No.
Myers?
No.
I wanted to hear.
Nay.
Nay?
Yeah.
Myers?
Nay.
Rockacharlie?
Yes.
Shellhorse?
Yes.
We
So-
have a tie vote.
We have a 2-2 vote. Ms. Marshall, would you clarify what that means?
Yes, sir. I'm going to check with Ms. Worley and Ms. Hunter. Do we have any time limitation issues with regard to this? When we have a tie vote and the Planning Commission still has time within which to decide, it carries over to their next meeting to revisit the issue.
If you give me one moment, I need to verify with the time frame when the application was submitted. Give me 1 second. Is this the first meeting that that could be heard? Yeah, if this was the first meeting, that should be okay. Right, yeah, they couldn't have made the July. There's no statutory time problems.
All right. I'm looking for the exact language. I apologize.
In the bylaws?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what we're looking to determine is whether we would defer the case and take it up at the next Planning Commission meeting, or whether it would go to the board with the tie vote.
It's automatic.
2.6.
Yes, a tie vote on any motion means the defeat of the motion for lack of a majority vote. When a tie vote occurs and no other motion is passed on an item, so you do have the option for a different option if someone cares to make a motion in a second. The item shall be carried over to the next regularly scheduled meeting or to a time, date, and place specified by a majority vote of the commission.
But can it just go directly to the board, noting that there was a tie vote?
No, sir, that is limited to when time runs out, when there's a specified time. Some decisions the commission may have to make within 90 days. If the tie vote, the next meeting is beyond that 90 days, so you wouldn't meet the statutory requirements, that's when the tie vote is reported to the board.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, since that's the case, I think we've got a lot of people here tonight to put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think we do a disservice to them to postpone this for another month or so. So I'd like to poll the members that are here and that voted against the motion to find out what their reasoning is and see if we can reconcile that to get this approved.
That's a fair request. John?
Here's your mic.
Oh, I think that's a fair request. John?
Okay. I rarely ever vote against the comprehensive plan. A lot of times.
Yeah, I need to speak
oh,
into the
mic. I said, I rarely ever vote against the comprehensive plan. A lot of time and effort went into preparing this document. We, as the Planning Commission, have a responsibility to do not only what's right for the county, but to comply as best we can with this plan. I really don't have a whole lot of problems with the, you know, I understand the neighbors concerned about traffic. No one wants their community to be invaded by extra traffic. I certainly can understand that. I really think that something should be worked out between staff and the applicant that's workable and is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. You know, and I really don't think that they're that far apart. I think something could be worked. Something could be worked out.
So what you're suggesting is that we enter a substitute motion to defer, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what John's recommending. Carter?
Well, what is your objection? So I have basically the same objection John does, is that I certainly understand the concerns of the folks that live in Parkside Village. I mean, yeah. I would feel exactly the same way. But it is, even for, you know, for their, I think that for having, you know, it was designed originally to have it, that I think that what they've done to change that in what we're voting on now is just to eliminate it. It's not to fix it. It's just to eliminate it. Now then, our next vote would be to maybe fix it, but I don't think eliminating it is the access altogether is meets the comprehensive plan as the staff is telling us.
Yeah. All right. Okay, John, if you would like to make a substitute motion to defer, to allow staff and the applicant to get together and try to reconcile the differences that exist, and then come back to the commission with their reports. Is that what you're...
Okay, right. I make a motion to defer this so that staff, between staff and the applicant, and perhaps even the residents can come up with a solution that's agreeable to everyone and is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. I think that such a solution is possible. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but we got some smart people on staff. I think they can work something out.
All right, I think that motion is clear. Ms. Worley?
Is there a second? Do we need a second?
I'm about to get one. I want to make sure we understand the motion.
I can second that.
All right. Mr. Duke has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion on what we're doing here?
Would that be to a date certain? We need a deferral to a date certain.
I think the next Planning Commission meeting?
September 6th.
Yes, the September Planning Commission meeting would be sufficient for accuracy.
Is that something staff feels that they could get on board with the developer?
Ms. Hunter, this can be reconciled.
Staff is always willing to work with the developer to find a solution.
Good. All right. So we have a substitute motion on the floor to defer to the next Planning Commission meeting in order to allow the applicant and staff to meet and reconcile the differences, maybe come up with a different way to skin the cat. So, Ms. Worley, would you call the roll?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
It was seconded by Mr. Duke.
Thank you. Duke?
Yay.
Myers?
Yay.
Braca Charlie?
Yay.
Shellhorse?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. All right, we need a motion for the RZ 2018-2, the second application as well.
Yes, this is the rezoning to allow 65 additional units in the subdivision. Is there a motion on this application?
Is that something we can do with not having passed the previous?
Yeah, I don't really think it depends on the previous motion, does it?
I think we almost have to.
It's my understanding, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but the proposal, the rezoning proposal before you won't be able to be met unless they can take the open space that would be provided by the new greenway to comprise the open space. So it would be ultimately determinative at the board level, but feel free to analyze it and make a recommendation as well on this matter.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. So the motion would, so it would be appropriate to motion that this application also be deferred to be heard when we revisit the proffer amendment. So I will make that motion.
Yes, sir, because if it goes to the board unaccompanied.
Right. So I will make that motion.
I'll second.
And it's seconded. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Ms. Marshall, I think we have one more item on the agenda.
You have two ordinance
We
amendments.
have two ordinance amendments, yes, sir. The next one is a countywide ordinance amendment. We'll let the room clear, and then I'll continue.
Yes.
Kicking the can.
Well, we're kicking the can down the road, but I don't know.
I don't know.
They're the ones that benefit from this. Leave here, I got it in like
I moved here from Henrico.
What's he concerned?
He told me he told me I needed to go back to Henrico. Move to Henrico, so I told him I moved here from Henrico. He's told me I need to go back. You see, I wish he had said that to me on a dark street at night.
Oh, but a copy of their bylaws.
Well, he thought we should have.
And the board?
Oh,
I'm not sure the board gets a copy. Yes, sir.
No, I know, but I appreciate the fact that these people don't want all of that traffic.
I got a problem with in my neighborhood, people cut through.
Yeah, you know, but I think something else can be worked out. Maybe.
Okay, we're finished. We're not taking. We're still in the.
Yeah, we're
still in our meeting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're still in our meeting.
Well, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Okay. We are. If you'll hang around, we'll talk afterward.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next item is a countywide ordinance amendment. It's an ordinance to amend Article 12, Section 5A of the Goochland zoning ordinance to add setback requirements for townhouse lots in the RPUD district.
Thank you, Ms. Worley. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, again, Joanne Hunter. This is an ordinance amendment, as Ms. Worley had indicated, dealing with only the RPUD, which is our residential plan unit district, and only with townhouses within that district. And this ordinance amendment would establish setback requirements for the townhouses. Some background on why we're doing this ordinance amendment. The recently approved Mosaic development, which was the H.H. Hunt project that came through a few months ago, included townhouses as part of their development. Townhouses have been a permitted use in the RPUD district. However, before this time, no one had taken advantage of this provision in the RPUD district. As we began reviewing the tentative plat for the H.H. Hunt project, we found that the zoning ordinance did not provide setback provisions for the townhouses. So this is something that was missed when they wrote the ordinance several years ago. So this would correct that and provide the setbacks for the townhouses. We did some benchmarking with some of our adjoining localities in terms of townhouses, and what we'd be recommending is that the townhouse lots would have a 25-foot front yard. A side yard between structures would be 10 feet, so it would actually be 20 feet between the two buildings, 15 feet if it's a corner lot, and then most importantly for the townhouses, for the lots that share a common wall, the side setback would be 0, and the rear yard would be 25. To show you in a graphic format, so this would be the road, so the front setback would be 25, the rear would be 25, 10 on the side, which would give you 20 feet between the two structures. And that's pretty comparable with other of other localities' ordinances, and also it would meet this plat submittal by H.H. Hunt. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have just one quick one, Ms. Hunter. The road, but that's the road. That would be the right-of-way. It's 25 feet from the right-of-way, assuming it's a public road.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
I'm assuming that one of the reasons for coming up with this was so that Goochland doesn't begin to look like Church Hill or the way downtown Richmond used to look with all these row houses. I think it's a pretty good proposal.
All right.
All right. Is there a motion?
Public
In a
hearing.
public hearing.
A public hearing, sorry. Is there anyone who would like to speak about this ordinance amendment to codify setbacks for townhomes? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, is there a motion?
I proudly move that we recommend this for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment is recommended for approval. Whit, you have one.
Yes, sir. This will be the highlight of the entire evening.
We always save the best for last.
Well, similar to the previous ordinance amendment you saw, this also arises from a situation that made us aware of something that we needed to fix within the code. This topic is dealing with public utility lot expansion. The background is there's the Old Oaks neighborhood. You may be familiar with it in the Crozier area. There was an underground storage tank which leaked something and contaminated some wells and may contaminate others. In working with the Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, and Aqua Virginia, which provides water service in that area, want to enable those residents to hook up to that water rather than have the contaminated wells. So in order to do that, Aqua has to upgrade its water facilities, and the upgraded facility will not fit on Aqua's existing utility lot. It needs additional area for the improvements. However, the zoning ordinance currently wouldn't allow for that expansion. The proposed zoning ordinance amendment before you this evening would allow Aqua to acquire the additional land needed to upgrade its facilities and expand its water service to the Old Oaks neighborhood. So that was the initial impetus. But should this ordinance amendment eventually be adopted, as I said, now that staff is aware of the issue and the need to allow for public utility expansion throughout the county, this proposed amendment is presented for you. Public utilities doesn't mean necessarily that the government is providing it. It means it's for use by the public. So that would include both government actors, for instance, the county with the TCSD, or Aqua Virginia, which provides water service in certain areas as well. This amendment would allow any other similarly situated facility that meets the requirements of the proposed ordinance to expand the size of a non-conforming lot to accommodate improvements to utility facilities. So the purpose of the ordinance itself is to present a narrowly tailored exception to the provisions governing non-conforming lots to enable the expansion of a public utility lot without the loss of its lawful non-conforming status. Non-conforming lots met the requirements of the county code when they were established, but subsequent amendments or changes in regulations mean they currently do not meet the code's minimum requirements, so they're pre-existing. These lots are allowed to continue to exist, but any expansion would trigger a requirement to meet the current code standards, including the existing setback requirements. So if you're in A2 or A1, then the well lot would have to meet those, which is impracticable because those setbacks are typically for buildings like homes or commercial uses rather than smaller utility facilities. The majority of the well lots that exist within the county now, and there are a number of them, they are pre-existing lawful non-conforming uses. There are other well lots that are currently used to serve multiple residences, but to be as specific as possible to address this specific issue, a public utility lot is determined to be a lot that's currently in existence today or when the eventual ordinance would be adopted, if it is. It is currently in use for a well or other public utility structure, and it provides service to multiple residences. So we're not talking about someone with a subset well lot within their bigger lot that just serves their home. We're talking about serving multiple residences. We're also proposing design standards that must be met in order to qualify for this. The setback from a public right-of-way needs to be at least 15. However, if the existing facility were closer, it would just have to be equivalent to the existing setback of the facility on the well lot. The same for yards, 5 feet for the yard setback or the current setback of the existing facility. And then finally, the facility must be adequately screened from adjacent residential uses. It's important to note that this is limited to public utility service improvements only, so it's important to know what this amendment would not do, and that would not take non-conforming small lots and turn them into buildable lots for other types of structures. So the purpose of the expansion is limited to providing additional services or enhanced services or technology upgrades for public utilities. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Ms. Marshall, in all due respect, your lead-in was a little weak.
Yes.
The question is, as far as I know, Aqua sort of trucks water in to tanks. Now, if in Crozier, the residents' wells were poisoned by an underground tank leaking, then obviously, if they were going to be switched to some kind of public system, then some type of infrastructure had to be put in as far as pipes to multiple homes. I'm assuming that was done.
No, sir. Installation if this ordinance is not adopted, then the project would have to find another way.
Oh, so nothing, at this point, nothing has been done?
Yes, sir. This proposed ordinance would enable this expansion to expand service across the street to the Old Oaks neighborhood.
Okay, now we're on the same page.
I apologize. I will work on a stronger entrance next time.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Marshall? Is there a motion? Public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this amendment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen?
I move that we recommend this for approval.
Motion that we recommend approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay.
I think, Ms. Worley, that concludes tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded. We stand adjourned.
I just